Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so welcome back. So this is the second module for week 2, so that becomes lecture 7. So we'll continue our discussion of lecture 6 on where we're talking about the plastic waste sources. So that discussion will continue in this particular lecture as well. So just to remind you, in this week the focus is on looking at sources as well as the production of plastic waste, and looking at the global and the Indian statistics. So you saw this slide in the last video as well. Just I want to remind you that that's the focus of this particular week. So in terms of the sources, we were talking about the plastic coming from municipal source, plastic coming from packaging industry, like packaging and the industrial sources, and therefore there were other sources out there as well, which leads to certain impact. So one of the impact is on land litter. Now what is land litter? Litter means when the waste is just thrown away and it is being unmanaged, we see it pretty much in many cities in the country. And as you travel through the train, unfortunate part is that, but when you travel through the train, what you see out of the window, as you approach certain cities, or you see that lot of garbage along the track, and many times it is actually thrown from the train as well. So a lot of packaging, mostly chips and other packaging that comes with that, gutkas and all those kind of stuff that you see. So that is litter. Litter means waste that is not being managed properly, and that's what you see in this particular picture, that waste is just thrown in the side of the road. Such a beautiful like a greenery on the back, but you see lots of waste on the side of the road. That's the littering that we call about. So plastic that either isn't collected, where the waste management facilities are lacking, plastic that's simply dropped or disposed on the streets in the environment, can be termed as land litter. So it is just getting into the land. So it's an aesthetic problem because it doesn't look nice, but more importantly, it's an environmental nuisance when on land. Why it is environmental nuisance? Of course, it just flow around, and many times we see that animals, especially cows and cows, dogs and goats and other animals, getting into that particular littered waste pile and try to eat some food waste which is actually wrapped in a plastic, and they consume those plastic into their body. I think a year before, I don't remember exactly when, but in India itself, when they on a dead cow, when they took that, when the cow died after as an old cow, when it's died, they were looking at the body inside the cow's body. So they basically did that dissection, and they found several kgs of plastic in the stomach. So what happens with this is these cows, by mistake, they consume this plastic, especially those thin plastic, and that stays in their body. That does not really degrade in the body, that does not get digested. So it stays in the body, and later on, since it stays in your stomach, they don't feel hungry, but there is no nutrient value coming out of those plastic. And when they don't feel hungry and there is no nutrient source going into the body, they get weak. Although the stomach is full, but it is full of plastic. And plastic is not providing any energy. So it kind of leads to the health effect. It leads to the animals getting weaker and losing life. And so that's a bigger problem. Although potentially doesn't look nice, but at the same time it has a lot of environmental nuisance. It gets into the water from this littered waste. It potentially can go from the stream to the river, from the river to the sea. and then it kind of keeps on churning inside the sea, gets broken down to smaller pieces and creates problem over there as well. So these items such as can be also be transported by wind and rain into drainage network, rivers, then transported ultimately to sea. So that's what is one of the major problem, plastics in ocean. That's a big problem, because ultimately ocean acts as a sink. Most of the stuff after ultimately ends up in ocean. So ocean acts as a sink, and that creates most of this plastic does end up in ocean, which we'll talk about in this particular week. So it's a big deal in terms of land littered plastic. So can you think about that? The waste that is there on your on the road along when you drive to your home or bike to your home, you see a lot of littered plastic. The same plastic may be in ocean, say a few months or down the line. So it does get transported, and when it's ocean, it can affect fish lives. If you enjoy eating seafood, then you may have this plastic coming back on your dinner plate one day in small pieces. So of course you will not like that. That's why it's very important to manage this plastic properly, so that we don't have those situations. So that's in terms of land litter. So microbeads, another area. Microbeads, it's tiny pieces of plastic. If you have used a scrubber, which we try to do our face, earlier most of these scrubbers were used. It will be natural stuff like ground almond. Almond is so costly now. So or oatmeal or pumice stone, that would be used for these as a microbeads for scrubbing, which is trying to take the dead cell out of your skin. Mostly used in many countries and many societies. It is common to use those scrub. If you go to any you go for any kind of a getting your ready for some big function or other stuff, you do that. So these are now, since rather than using these natural stuff, people are moving towards using the tiny beads of plastic. Some of you may not be aware, but this is what they are used in various personal care and cosmetic product like facial cleanser and cosmetics. They are used in medicine as vectors for drug, was also reported. So microplastic scrubbers used in when you try to exfoliate hand cleanser or facial scrubs have replaced the traditional used natural ingredients, which just I mentioned. So many of these microbead plastics are too small to be filtered out of a wastewater treatment plant. So what will happen to all those? See, if I put that scrub on my face with lots of microbead plastic, then I wash my face, so that microbead plastic is gone to my sink. From the sink, it goes to my like a wastewater treatment system, and it ends up in the wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment, since these are very tiny particles, wastewater treatment plant is not designed to trap these particles, so it will end up potentially in the affluent, or can go into the ocean from inland water streams or drains, and when it goes to the ocean again, it will start building up over there. It will go into the food chain for all the species present in ocean, and if you are taking salt, like salt, if you make salt from those area, then it may show up in your salt as well. That's why when research was done looking at microplastics in the salt, we found them. So that's why these microbeads are actually very nasty stuff. Many countries around the world, in Europe and other places, they are started trying to phase out. They don't want us to use these microbeads, but it's very popular in Indian context. You see all those gluey stuff. Many times when you use them, it gets all over your body. You use it for some decoration and other stuff, and those are microbeads. Those are microbead plastics. So that's you're using. Many times we use it without realizing that we are using it. Even some of these microplastics are also there in some toothpaste, which is kind of have a roughness in there, which helps in your gums and other stuff. But then it creates problem when it goes for in the wastewater treatment plant. and it could be potentially toxic to the bacteria which is present in the wastewater treatment plant. So, it can have a lot of impact on the environment and human health. So, then many times you see that you have plastics getting into the water, it is not collected properly. So, it will go into the river, the streams and drain, and that creates plastic pollution. So, it is this plastic improper management of collected plastic waste can also find way into these inland water bodies through stormwater drainage, and all these can cause clogging of the drain. You may have clogging of drain, can be breeding source for the mosquitoes as well, causing human health hazard. So, that is another problem in terms of inland litter that you see happening, water plastic getting into the water and creating a problem. So, industrial leakages where poor standards in industrial processes. So, where you have plastic moving into the environment, either when products containing plastic are not disposed of properly or escaped during the production, where you are producing, you lost some plastic along the way. Thousands of tiny plastic pellets used for produce plastic products known as nurdles or mermaids tears are washed up on beaches every year. So, they are basically gets into the beaches every year. So, that is again, these are very tiny plastic pellets. So, those are your industrial leakages getting into the ocean. Marine litter, which is a big deal. So, this is how the plastic pollution got attention almost, I would say, 10 years ago now. So, if you as you have registered for this course, if you are taking this course, one thing there are so many information out there. YouTube has a lot of videos out there, but go and look at Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which we will talk about in this course. But I want you to look at that video from the YouTube. It's around 10 to 12 minutes video, which was one of the first video that came out. Great Pacific, it's on Pacific Ocean, garbage patch. If you go on your YouTube and just type this, or Google and type this Great Pacific Garbage Patch, you will find several videos out there. One of the initial ones done by a chemist actually, who has I would say rich chemist from South Florida, who wanted to really, he used to love fishing. So, one day when he went out to fish, he started seeing lots of plastic in ocean. So, he thought that we need to really do something about that, and to do something about that, the first thing he wanted to know is how much plastic is really out there. So, he kind of started tracking that plastic, having his own vessel, started tracking the plastic, and then also did an extensive study in Hawaii beaches, very pristine beaches, so called. It has to be pristine beaches where not many people are going there, but still plastics are showing up because the plastic is getting into the ocean and then finally getting into the shore of those Hawaii island beaches. So, that raised lots of alarm all over the world that we are not managing this plastic waste properly, and they are getting into the ocean, they are getting into everywhere, and that is going to create a lot of nuisance. So, what is marine litter? Again, the waste which is litter itself means that waste that is being not managed properly, just thrown away, just it's littered away. So, that littering, and so marine litter is human created waste that has been deliberately or accidentally, it can happen deliberate or accidentally, released into the sea or ocean during shipping, fishing or aquaculture. So, when you go for holidays, when you go for visiting beaches, you go for disposing of bottles and food packaging on the sand also directly contributes to plastic getting into the ocean. So, when we started thinking about marine litter, people thought that maybe it is all the people, when we go for beach, we should collect all that garbage, we should not let that garbage go into the ocean. That is a very good thing to do, and that should be done. We should not leave the waste on the beaches so that it gets like sucked into the sea when we have high tide, when the water is coming into those especially during the evenings when you see the water actually coming inland, many of those waste will go into the ocean. So that's, we should not let that happen. But even if that does not take place, it's still because of improper management of plastic globally in many developing countries and leakages from developed countries as well, plastic does end up in the water bodies, and as we know, most of these surface water, rivers and other stuff ultimately drains into the sea. So that's where the plastic ends up. So plastic at sea acts as a sink for this plastic waste. So we see floating ocean debris tend to accumulate at the center of gyres and coastlines, frequently washing around when it is known as beach litter or tide rack, whatever. So that's what the marine litter is all about. We get a lot of marine waste, especially a lot of plastic is showing up there. You go on Google and look at marine litter, look at the marine plastic problem. You will find lots of pictures, lots of videos out there, and you should watch those videos and and then try to get more information, because we cannot play those videos in this at the part of this course. You need to go and look at those, and if you find some good video, post it on the discussion board, the link for it, so the others can enjoy, others can see it, and others can learn from that as well. Then there are certain secondary sources. Now, what is secondary sources? Secondary sources are the microplastic. They're the small pieces of plastic derived from breakdown of large plastic debris. It could be both at the sea and the land. So because of the disintegration of plastic over time, you are getting smaller plastic that are being made. As you can see over here in this particular picture, you have lots of things have broken down. You can see small pieces of plastic. Similarly, here as well, you see that is smaller pieces of plastic after the bigger it is basically derived from the bigger pieces after breaking down. That could be because of physical, biological, chemical, photo degradation over a period of time. So because that leads to reduction in the structural integrity of the large size plastic, and eventually it becomes a smaller, and then it gets into the size which is undetectable to naked eye, and so then it becomes really problematic because we don't know it is there. So this process of breaking down is known as a fragmentation, which we used the term earlier as well, where the large plastic gets into the smaller pieces, and the smaller the pieces, more the surface area, more and it can get into, say, if it's smaller pieces of plastic is there in our ambient air, which we cannot see with the naked eye, it can get into my body as well. So smaller pieces of plastic can get into the water that I'm drinking, or so those are because it cannot be filtered out. It's a very tiny pieces. So that becomes really a nuisance. That becomes really a health hazard. So let's look at this particular. We'll spend some time on this particular picture, and I will try to explain this to you. Unfortunately, the picture is some of the text is too small, but I will read it and then I will try to write it on the side as well. And you will have these slides. So when you watch this video, I would also encourage you to look at the slide at the same time, and we'll have full picture, like a full one slide per page PDF uploaded for each week. So you will have those with you as well. So how the plastic is flowing from land to ocean. So that's the whole process we are trying to explain using this graph, and this was done as part of a report done in UK, very nicely done. So we thought we'll just use that. So here is the source, and again I would like to highlight that for every lecture videos, for every lecture every week, we have used lots of pictures. And many of those pictures are not our own pictures. So we have put the sources at the bottom here, which you should do whenever you are doing any presentation. Since we are using it for educational purposes, it's okay. If I'm using it for commercial purposes, I may have to pay as well to these reports. If I'm selling I cannot sell this picture. So, but since we are using it for educational purposes, it's okay. But it's always it's actually kind of mandatory that you have to list the source. So every slide we have the source at the bottom wherever there is a picture used which is not our picture, which means developed by me or my TA in our department here at IIT Kharagpur. So those sources are there. and you need to, if there are certain things on this picture which you don't understand, go on the source. That most of these are coming from reports, and that report explains it in more detail how these pictures were derived. We'll try to do that here, but if you miss something, you of course put it on discussion board. Even after that, you want more information, go at these as websites and look for more information. So that will help you. So coming to the topic here, so plastic waste flow from the land to ocean. So in so here the focus is where do the plastic come from and where do they go. So that's what. So here we have some land based, the inland sources are there. So land based sources, this much you have land based which is coming from day to day activities, wastewater treatment plant and all that. Then there are some land based coastal sources where people going to the beaches. So here you have 9 million tons per annum. So it is estimated that 9 million tons per annum of plastic waste is going into the ocean from the beach activities that is happening globally. So that much plastic is going into the ocean. From land based, it's around 0.5 million ton per annum. So from the land based sources, from the inland sources, we are getting 0.5 million tons, which is much comparatively is less than, I would say, compared to if you look at the coastal activities, it's much less, even less than 10% of that. But it by itself, it's a significant amount as well, 0.5 tons per annum. Now total, and then we have at sea. Sea, what is the source? It could be the fishing litter. So when you go out for fishing, many times your things breaks down, you just leave your there, you have a big fishing net, you think you just somehow you lost it, some accident, and you could not and you just don't bother to take it out from the ocean, you just leave it there. So that's your fishing litter. And the other is your shipping litter. When you are shipping it through, you just throw a lot of stuff, a lot of packaged food and other stuff that you are using on the ship, you are just dumping into the ocean. So with so many shipping containers now going over the ocean from different parts of the world, around 0.6. So if you look at that number, actually shipping litter is more than what we are getting from the land based litter. So think about that, 0.6 million tons per annum, which is 0.10 more, 0.10 more than what is coming from the land based litter. So this is 0.6 value over there, and then this was your 0.5 million tons per annum. Then you have some beaches. We have total how much beaches? It's around, we are getting a lot of stuff which is coming from 2000 kg per kilometer square, like 5% of the total. Then we have ocean surface, which is around 18 kg per kilometer square, 1% of the total. That is what the concentrations are. So these are on this side is what is the concentration of where do they go. Here in this side we have where do they come from. On, say, if I can draw a line here, I think something like that, may not be, but anyway. So on the left is where do they come from, on the right is where they are going. So they are in the beaches, around 2000 kg per kilometer square, 5% of the total ends up in the beach soil that you get over there. Ocean surface is getting around 1% of the total, which is 18 kg per kilometer square, what you see in the ocean surface, which is actually bad for the fish and other stuff, because many times when these plastics are broken down, it is there on the surface. Fish thinks that it is a food, and they eat those plastic because they think that it is like a small fish, because there becomes a shiny small particles, and then the bigger fish eats the small fish. That's how plastic keeps on going up the food chain. Then at the sea floor, which most of the sea floor is actually acting as a sink. We sea floor, the concentration is 70 kg per kilometer square. So that is what is there on the sea floor. Lots of plastics on the sea floor. So 70 kg per kilometer square, which is close to 94%. So 94% of the plastic is ultimately is getting into the sea floor on the sea bed, where we have this plastic just sitting there. Then we have primary microplastics as well. If you look at the, we will talk about that in a minute. So, in terms of the focus is where do they come from and where do they go. So, total plastic entering the marine environment is 12.2 million tons per annum. So, 12.2, that is the data right here. So, 12.2 million tons per annum is coming into the environment and ultimately into the marine environment, and which is kind of gets distributed in, some stays in the beach, some goes onto the ocean surface and the different layers of the ocean, and finally at the bed of ocean you have 94%, and rest of 6% is kind of divided as in 5% was on the beach and 1% is in the ocean, so in the waters. So, 5 plus 1 6 and the 94% in the bed, so total 100%. So, that is what the distribution that based on the data collected shows, that is where. So, it is mostly plastic, mismanaged plastics are ultimately ending up in the ocean. So, that is why we are worried about in terms of it's a huge impact on plastic pollution on ocean. That is why National Geographic, if you have followed National Geographic recently, in June of this year on the World Environment Day around, they did a plastic in ocean, like plastic or planet, that report is also out there, and they are also planning to do some work in Indian contest, which I will be involved as well. We will do some work, we will go along River Ganga, and that is part of my research, and hopefully if I can share some experience from there, hopefully that most likely will happen after this course is over. But those of you who are interested, we can talk about that later. But that's where we will be tracking plastic getting into Ganga from all the way from Rishikesh, Haridwar to Howrah, to where it like a Hooghly river. We will try to quantify how much plastic is getting into River Ganga from mismanaged sources of municipal solids and other sources that we have along the River Ganga. So, that is a huge project. It will be done starting sometimes in February, March of 2019. We will start that, and then it will continue as probably for a year, or most likely it will be a 2-year project. We are still working on details on that. So, you saw that where the plastic is being produced and where it is end up, plastic waste. Then one of the component of was the primary like a microplastic. So, how much, let us look at some of these microplastic, which is very, very important in terms of source. So, this microplastic we have in terms of, let us make a new one. So, that is the microplastic we are looking at. So, it is around 0.95 million tons per annum. So, since they are micro, its sizes are small, so weight is also small. All the data is as per weight. So, 0.95 million tons per annum of microplastic that is getting into into the environment. Out of that, we have some. What are the sources? We are getting cosmetics. We have some marine plants which has some plastic as well. We have road paint, building paints, textiles, many textiles use plastics, pallet spills, vehicle tire dust. So, vehicle tire dust is actually and they are all in 1000 tons. So, vehicle tire dust is 270,000 tons, then pallet spills is 230, then we have textile is 190,000 tons. They are not in million, they are in thousands. And then we have building paints, road paint, cosmetics. So, cosmetics 35,000 tons. 35,000 tons of microplastics are used in cosmetic industry, and these are all per year. So, this is per year figure. So, think about that. If you whenever you use some cosmetics, you are actually you possibly are using some microplastics. So, look at that label a bit carefully. Then you have the marine paint, which is also carries marine paint means the paint which is used for those boats and other stuff, from the boat, from the whole big ships, the ships that we have, they are all painted, and that will have little bit of plastic like microplastic, which will leach off into the ocean. So that's kind of the another sources. So this is kind of gives you a how the plastic waste is flowing from land to ocean, and which is leading to all those Great Pacific Garbage Patch and other stuff which we'll be talking about in the coming weeks, so in the coming videos as well. So that's kind of we will continue this discussion with some other studies. This is the one study based in UK. So what we'll do is we'll continue this discussion in terms of how the plastic is moving globally, and that will continue looking at that in the next video as well. So in this particular video, the focus was in the first. So this I'm trying to summarize every video just for like a minute or so to give you a good idea. So in week 2, we are looking at plastic waste sources, how the plastic is moving, the plastic waste is moving. So in the first video we talked about the sources. In the second video we started looking at like a movement of plastic waste globally, how the plastic is getting from land to sea and water and different species. So we'll continue that discussion in the next one, and then we'll start looking at some more details, some more global reports. Again, look at the discussion board, put the questions out there, and we'll be happy to answer that. Any questions, any concern, let us know. Thank you, and I hope you are enjoying this course so far.